I've been telling you guys that there's been a war on sexuality going on both the left and the right for years, and 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 I basically don't like this I've never liked the trad LARP because it just comes off as ugh. It's not real traditionalism. It's always pretending to be something, as well as authoritarian in nature. Then you have the people who are afraid of beautiful, attractive women or depictions of women, and say that you that you cannot that you cannot have those thoughts about such people. And I'm like, the reason why I wouldn't want to have thoughts about people, fictional and real, is because it's a distraction to me. I've always found that having those sexual thoughts about people, about characters, and especially people, just annoys the crap out of me. It just distracts me from what I'm trying to do, which is just do what I need to get done. Lust is not something which is done out of love, or rather, not something which is love. Lust is the opposite of love. It is hatred. It is it is lacking in the things which love does not lack. It is the hatred of your fellow man, the hatred of your friend, the hatred of your family, the hatred of your spouse, and even the hatred of the divine. It is not motivated in love. It is motivated in exploitation and manipulation of those things of which you lack. And oftentimes motivated by shame and guilt, because you think that you either don't deserve or you're not able to attain those things which are good, beautiful, beautiful, and righteous. Those things so divinely moving in people's lives, so divinely important in people's lives, that people tend to not realize it. Most people don't even figure it out. Most people think that they don't need it. That what use is love? What use is love? I'm going to look at pornography my entire life and not find a relationship. Because the cards are stacked against me. There is no hope in this world. There's only hopelessness. There's nothing good in this world. There's nothing righteous. There's nothing beautiful. It's all ugly, evil, and unrighteous. And you see how people who think like that, no wonder they're miserable fucks. Because they think that the whole world, that there is nothing. They accept nihilism. They accept this idea that there is no divine. That's part of it. No higher moral law, for lack of a better word. And they accept the gratification of the senses and gratification of the stomach and genitals is the highest that one can aspire to. They don't realize that you have love. They don't know love in their hearts. They don't know love. Of course, they would think those things, or even hang their body on such things, because that is what a person who knows not love, especially the love of the divine, if you follow that philosophy, that philosophy that you hear so often, I hear so often from the Hare Krishnas that love is Krishna consciousness. It is the essence of conscious awareness of the divine and connection with the world around them. It's the connections with the people around them. It's the connections. Love is essential for our connection with nature. You know why we exploit nature? Because we're disconnected from it. And therefore we're disconnected from the divine. Is what can I get out of it? What can I get out of nature? What can I get out of splitting the boson particle
It's all, it's all, it's all, what can I get out of it motivated rather than what can I give? What can I use this knowledge for that would help people, that would help the world, rather than exploitation should be the motivation of people's actions. It should be, what can I give to the world? What can I give to the divine? There's not really much you can give to the divine. The divine has all things. The divine has all things. But you have people, but there's at least stuff you can give to people. Things which would help people. Things which would improve people's lives. Not everything. We need to get our eyes. Lust is the exploitative, is always rooted in exploitation. Whereas love is rooted in the opposite of exploitation. And let's realize that our motivations aren't always in the right motivations. It's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate thing about reality, about life. See the love. See, love is what allows the apple to grow, the apple tree to grow into a big tree. To this. It allows it to grow into this, from just a youngling. You see how the parent puts a protection around the child to protect him from threats. So that way he may not need protection. So that way he may grow into a tree, into an adult tree. Love. And so that way he is nurtured so he may bear good fruit. And so his fruit is hardy. And even though it may be a little bit diseased, it may be a little bit imperfect, it's still good fruit. It may not be perfect. It may be dry, a little bit of dry parts here and there, but it's still good fruit. Love, the love of the divine's love, casts away the diseased fruit, or the fruit that has been eaten away by the worm. The love of a good parent, much the same way. And thus it grows and it bears even better fruit as long as it is maintained. It is taken well care of, taken very well of. It bears good fruit. And it grows into, it goes from that into that. Much like the love of a parent should be so. The love of a parent should be should be the same as that of the divine. That's what they say. But people don't know that. People don't know what the meaning of love is. People don't know the meaning of what it is to be loved. Love transcends the baser desires of our stomachs and of our sexual organs. It transcends these base desires. It's the very act of love is faith in action. I believe that is something similar to what Mother Teresa said. Faith is love. Love is faith in action. I have to look that one up. There is so much more to the truth than just simply the divine, the nature of the divine. There's also the truth regarding who and what we are, and the fact that we so love to avoid that. We so love to run away from the realities regarding who and what we are as individuals, and how we have acted toward others, behaved toward others. And when we confront those realities regarding ourselves, which is a part of coming to terms with the divine itself. It's a part of that. It's also part of the individuation process, where we become different people as a result. Just transformed individuals who are transformed through this realization, where we rise above the old self, where we're kind of like the old man is reckoned dead in Christ Jesus, as the saying goes in Christianity. When that old man dies with the truth, with the realization of the truth about oneself. And it is like confronting, one can also say it's like confronting Kali Ma, and the image of Kali Ma. The image of this goddess with these heads strewn around her neck and these hands strewn around her neck, around her waist, with this her tongue sticking out, dripping with blood. This naked goddess, the naked truth, the naked, morbid truth regarding who and what you are. This is what will happen to you at the time of death. You will be one of those heads strewn around your neck. And to confront that image is also like confronting Krishna himself. Because Krishna said, I am become death. the destroyer of worlds. So it was very, very interesting how you could also say that the confronting of death, of what happens to us when we die, and the nature of this persona non grata named Bob, Sue, and Larry, and or Larry, and the nature of the body mind, not to be confused with the divine mind. This the nature of this body is it's this pee, poop, and all manner of nasty things, and that really that life is suffering. And the whole point of life is to rise above as much suffering as one is able to take, and that we should become much more than what we think we are. Truth is so much more than just simply confronting the divine. It is also confronting the truth regarding ourselves as individuals, and who we are as individuals, and what we truly are as something beyond the individual. And realizing that there is a who beyond the individual. It is the realization of who, and what we have hurt and done, and the realization that we must rise above that. We must rise above shame and guilt, and not become a slave to it. We must confront death itself and accept the death of this individual that we call Bob, Sue, Larry, and or Larry, persona non grata, ego, as a part of becoming something greater, something much more, something of a great, of a, something much more divine in nature, something much more beautiful. And so when we realize this, we come face to face with Kali Ma, an image of a naked goddess with a bloody tongue sticking out, heads strewn around her neck, and arms around her waist. With arms strewn around her waist. We come face to face with the naked, morbid truth. And as Krishna said, I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. The first thing we saw was the divine, and the last thing we see is the divine. And the whole purpose of life is to rise above, who we think, who and what we think we are. Is to realize that we're so much more than this material body. That we are far more than what we thought, and that we can rise above anything simply because it is that we are not what we think we are, not who we think we are. We are much more than our thoughts. We are much more than our actions. We're not, we're tied to them. Cause, cause and effect, we're ruled under cause and effect. You can't escape it. But one can learn to ride cause and effect like one rides the waves of the ocean. Like one rides the waves of the ocean and overcomes, reaches the land. To become the resurrected man, the phoenix that rises from the ashes, we must become one of the heads on Kali Ma's garland. We must recognize that what limits us is our failure to change, is our unwillingness to change. And that change is a part of life. Like it says in the Old Testament, or what the Jews call the Tanakh, there is a season for everything. There is a time to live and a time to die. A time to wither and a time to bloom. A time to cast away stones. Every purpose under heaven. There is so much more to life that we pay so little attention to the seasons. And then we end up realizing when it's already too late. We get so old in life that we should have recognized the truth long ago of life being short, that we should have loved, we should have put aside our guilt and shame, but instead we clinged to it our entire lives, squandered our potential to become so much more than what we were, than what we thought we were. And we still cling to that idea of ourselves that we never did try to be something much more than that. We said we could never do it. I can never rise above this disease that afflicts me. I can never arise from this. I can never rise above this disease which afflicts me. I can never rise above this ailment which afflicts me. And we just give in to lie, and we just give into nihilism, and we give up on life. We just give up on life and just say fuck it. We're not meant. You see, we're not meant to give up on life. We're meant to rise above. That's the whole point of raising children, is that you're raising children to go above and beyond. Not just the satisfaction of their stomach or their genitals. You're also teaching them to rise above suffering. And although Buddha said, Siddhartha Gautama said, life is suffering, that does not mean that we cannot rise above suffering. That we should seek to rise above it to as high of an extent as one is capable of. It's not always the case that everyone can rise above it, but that should be the goal. After all, that is what has perpetuated the species. Is it not? The fact that people did not allow suffering to squander the great potential that we as a species, although we didn't understand it at the time, at the conscious level, we knew that we had to go on. We knew that we had to survive. We knew that we had to fight. Not give up. Fight. And rise above the nihilism. Rise above the hopelessness, the depression, the angst, and become so much more than what we thought we were. Because the failure to do so is the death of potential itself. The death of what you could have been, what you should have been, what you can be now. One has to ask themselves why they are perpetually upset. Why are they perpetually offended? And why are they so depressed all the time? Is it because they're constantly scrolling social media all the time? And is it because they don't have any responsibilities in life? They don't have any responsibilities in life. You have to wonder, why? Why is it that they get mad at people's opinions online. When you get mad at people, trust me, when you get mad at people for their opinions, what are you doing? You're giving those people power over you. It reminds me of the passages in the Bible where the nations are mad at God, and God is like, "Oh, I've got or Jehovah rather," and Jehovah's got like the last laugh because you know I've got power over you. I control you because you're perpetually outraged at me. You're perpetually outraged at me. I have power over you now. I mean, why do you think that is? Why do you think that people can easily control you? It's because you you do the things which allow people to control you. You eat the fast food that you know is not good for you. The fast food that they say is good for you, but actually isn't. And so that way you can take the pill that they put in your that so you can take the pill to treat your depression caused by your overeating or eating a fast food, and you're you're drinking of alcohol, you're constantly getting drunk, you're constantly looking at porn, you're constantly scrolling social media, and you're perpetually mad all the time. And you're perpetually offended all the time. You're perpetually angry all the time. You're perpetually hateful all the time. And judgmental. You like to think of yourself as, oh, I'm not like that. I'm not like those people. But how much I bet you are a lot like the people you claim are the fascists, the Nazis, the sexists, the racists, the homophobes, and the transphobes. How much of those people are you much more alike than you realize, or you would like to admit, or more than you'd like to admit? I bet you, a lot of you, are whom get perpetually mad all the time, are a lot like the people you claim you're not. And this is a question you need to ask yourself. How am I like these people? And why and how did this happen? A lot of people just I'm gonna say this. I want to say this. Take on responsibilities. Take on responsibilities that take you away from this crap. this shit that, if you will, that people, that you've gotten yourself sucked into before it destroys your life. Responsibilities will put into perspective what things actually matter.
Oh yeah, this was all too funny.
And then this individual says, do Straggots really find this attractive? So if it wasn't obvious, this person is trying to create a slur for straight people, which I'm pretty sure no straight person would be offended by this. It's just goofy, but it's like one of those things. Like, clearly, okay, you have your preferences. You're not attracted to characters like this, or female characters in particular. That's totally fine, but don't act like it's a big shock that men, straight men, would like this sort of a design.
Like, if you want to know more about what Rose says Des is talking about, the video is right here. Men, do you find this attractive? Always reminds me of the "is this a bird" meme. Just had to throw this in the video since we're talking about offensive language. There can be no change by way of politics and society unless there is a change in the human. Unless we are willing to deal with our crap and not expect the government to do all the work. To just put it on the politicians to do it all. Because if the politicians are given that kind of power, then they can do all sorts of things and legislate all sorts of things that you may not want. So before you even attempt to get government to do anything, instead you should take personal responsibility for yourself and your actions, and you should not be asking others to do that, especially government.
A governor going on television after a massive tragedy where we don't even know the number of people dead yet. You have this massive area that's been burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
And then he starts talking about taking it over for the state. That's an insane position to take.
It is.
Post-tragedy. When
And
people are suffering at their most, they can't
Yeah.
even believe it happened.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's saying, we're going to take it for the state and make a memorial? How about give the fucking people their homes back?
Exactly.
You know, one of the things we went over yesterday, which is a crazy number, we were looking at the amount of money that was accidentally sent to Ukraine. Like they oversent $6 billion. And then I said, well, how much would it cost to rebuild every house in the Maui fire? And it's $5 billion, $5 billion something.
Yeah.
Like that's just like accidental money. Yeah. But there's no talk of doing that. Yeah. There's no talk of doing that. Isn't that interesting?
The way, and it's happened 2 or 3 times now where the Pentagon has said, "Oh, we miscalculated how much money we had set aside for Ukraine, so we have an extra $4 billion to send now that we didn't know we had." And this has happened a few times. Secretary of State Tony Blinken went to Kiev yesterday, promising, "Hey, we're going to give you another $1 billion now." And this is the thing: when I was out there in Maui, person after person was like, "Tulsi, tell me what would happen if we started to call ourselves Ukraine. You think they would give us some money then to take care of our families, to fix our roofs, that have been torn up by the hurricane winds that came through, to make sure we have clean water to drink? You think they might pay attention to us then?" And then FEMA comes out, the FEMA director comes out and does this press conference. I think it was at the White House. And she says, well, someone said, "Well, what are you doing for Maui?" She's like, "Oh, we're giving a one-time $700 payment to everybody who's been impacted by the wildfire. A one-time $700 payment.
It's insane.
Hawaii has the highest cost of living in the entire country. The entire country. And how freaking insulting is it to have the lead disaster response administrator from the Biden administration stand there and proudly say, hey, we're giving everybody one $700 payment.
It's insane.
If you ask me, sex, illicit sex, especially sex with illicit intent behind it, must be shunned. And rather than engage in things for the sake of pleasure of satisfying one's own stomach or genitals, simply you would be better off building a relationship with the individual and just building it based upon the relationship rather than making sexual gratification the main motivation behind it. You'd be a better individual for it.